Yesterday, we discussed Lord Chaitanya being entrusted by his father to the school of Gangadas Pandit, a great teacher. And Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us the beginning of the Lord's Kaishor Lila was when he was 11 years old. At that time, he became a teacher. At 11. Such a teacher that even the senior-most scholars of Navadvip could not fathom his intelligence. Nobody knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his own Yogamaya potency. But yet, he displayed such inconceivable knowledge that nobody could fathom it. He would debate even with the greatest professors. And please understand that Navadvip was the high seat of learning for the whole of India. The greatest scholars in the nation were living there. And there were not just thousands, there were millions of students that were coming for all direction. Because if you had a certificate of learning from one of the pundits of Navadvip, you were on the top of the class of scholars, pundits. And this 11-year-old Nimai, he had his students. And his students could even defeat the greatest professors. That is how he empowered them. He would challenge someone to an argument. He would defeat their argument. Then he would defeat his own argument and establish his opponent's argument. And then he would defeat his opponent's argument and reestablish his own argument. And then he would defeat how he defeated his own argument and establish his opponent's argument. And his opponents would just... they would surrender. Who is this person? It was incredible. And it was around that time that the Digvijay Pandit came to Navadvip, the world champion scholar who had a certificate that every other great known Pandit, he was the world champion. And Nimai defeated him. But interestingly, every single scholar that Nimai would defeat, they would always feel good about it. Because he displayed no arrogance, no condescending nature. He would defeat them with such respect, with such gentleness, with such gracefulness, that they would actually enjoy being defeated. Now that is miraculous. Keshav Kashmiri, the world champion, said, only God could do that. Because please understand, these scholars were not bhaktas, they were not devotees who were trinadapi sunichena tarorivasi. They were just the opposite. Their whole motivation and purpose of gaining great scholarship was to get reputation, distinction, prestige. That was the most important thing. And they would also get some wealth. But wealth was secondary in those days. Prestige, pratishta, fame was something very great. Where people honor you, people respect you, people want to study under you. And they also give you gifts, so you take it and you enjoy. So these people were some of the proudest people on the planet Earth. With every syllable of wisdom that they would digest, it would nourish their ahankar, their ego. They weren't seeking spiritual liberation. They were seeking the fame and prowess of learning. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. And here the Lord, Nimai, if they knew he was the Lord, that would be another thing. But he was 11, 12, 13-year-old boy. In those days, he was just growing up. And these people had gone to the highest institutions for 20 years and studied and teaching, and they had thousands of students, and now they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they're grave scholars, and this 11-year-old boy is defeating them totally. But he does it with such gentleness, with such love, with such grace, that they enjoy being defeated by him. Such a miracle. That's the power of the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We read how he was, when he was about 16, we talked about this yesterday, he was married to Lakshmi Devi. And in his marriage, according to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, he displayed the perfect ideal example of how householders could live. The primary quality that Lord Chaitanya personified is that of seva, selfless service. Because Nimai was a Brahmin, and his students would give him gifts, but most of them were Brahmin students too. And even today, for many years, I was lecturing in the colleges of America, to some extent even now. We would have these vegetarian cooking classes. And we'd serve out a feast after the class. And some colleges, once a week we'd have these classes, we would get 200 to 300 students coming. And I don't know how many of them came to learn how to cook from me, but they loved the prasad. And 99.9% of all of them said it's the best food we get all week. Because traditionally, students do not have much money. Generally the parents pay their tuition and all that, and their rent, but they don't give them much money beyond that. Because if they do, God knows what they'll do with it. Especially in the Western countries. Maybe even more, especially in India. Not to speak of Indians that go to Western countries. So these are all Brahmin students, millions of them. And obviously they don't have much money when they come to Navadvip. They come to learn. So Nimai was not a rich person. He was a Brahmin himself. His family was very simple economically. He just had a simple house. But yet, whatever gifts were given to Vishwambar, Lord Chaitanya, practically all of it, he would give it away to other people. He was magnanimous. He was unselfish. He was extremely charitable. This was his way of showing what grihastas should be. If he saw any poor person, wherever he saw them, he would give them rice or food or cloth or some money. Whatever he had, he would give. Somebody's in need, I have it, you take it. So he was charitable to the poor. People may say we shouldn't do that, but Lord Chaitanya did it. He was charitable to those in need. This is very strongly explained in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And how much he also served and facilitated the Brahmins. those who are distributing transcendental knowledge. And his mother and wife, Lakshmi and Devi and Sachi Mata, they were just like him. Whatever they had, they wanted to share it with others. Because, you see, the Lord is saying from a perspective of transcendence. Aham bija pratapita. Krishna says, I am the father of all living beings. I am the mother of all living beings. So in this sense, everyone is our family. Not only all races and all castes and all colors and all human society, but all living beings. The animals, the birds, they're all our family. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani kavihastini suni jaiva supakecha pandita sanadarshana. Transcendental knowledge is actually exhibited in its real sense when we are able to see every living being with equal vision. When we see the Paramatma Krishna in everyone's heart. And when we see that the jiva is part and parcel of Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, who says, Aham bija pratapita. So on one level, he's the father of all living beings, and he's providing for all his children, whoever they may be, with whatever he has. But especially in the role of a devotee, he was seeing everyone as his brothers and sisters. Compassion. And sometimes Lord Chaitanya would meet some sannyasis. He loved to serve sannyasis. And he would invite them to his house. Describes on several occasions, he would just be out and he would meet 20 sannyasis. Now, for those of you who know sannyasis, they have a tendency to eat much more than anyone else. Especially, when I lived with sadhus, I was a 19-year-old boy, and I couldn't even eat a portion of what these 70 and 80-year-old sadhus were eating. But anyways, he would just tell Sachi, he would send a message to Sachi Devi, 20 sannyasis are coming in 1 hour. And Sachi Devi would tell Lakshmi, and Lakshmi, we don't have any food in the house. They were a simple family. It's not that they had stocks. They just had what for the family for every day. So Sachi Devi, she just went to the kitchen to see what is there. And by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement, because Lakshmi Devi and Sachi Devi had the will to do it, the Lord provides. Just when she was walking into the kitchen, some guest would come and say, your son Nimai is such a good teacher, I want to give this bhoga to you. And there'd be all kinds of sabjis and rices and grains and spices and everything. Enough for a big feast for 20 people. What was the Lord teaching us? Krishna tells in Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paruparshate tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. That if we just surrender to Krishna, the Lord will provide, He will sustain and protect what we have, and whatever we lack, the Lord will provide. If we have the will. That's the greatest deficiency in expanding the movement of bhakti. The will to expand. If we have the will, Krishna can miraculously facilitate. But if we just think, I don't have, so, let's just maintain, then it will be extremely difficult even to maintain. Krishna wants to see our will. If we really want to give to others, Krishna provides. This is spiritual mathematics. Srila Prabhupada explains spiritual mathematics is like that. That Krishna provides what we lack if we have the will, without duplicity. And he was a grihasta who just wanted to serve. He invited 20 sannyasis, sent them home. There was no food in the house. Sachimata says, all right, I'm willing to, whatever we have, I'm going to do it. And Lakshmi Devi said, I'm ready. And they go into the kitchen, and everything's there. And they would cook and cook and cook and make a wonderful feast. And Lord Chaitanya would come, and all the sannyasis came, and they assembled in his house. And he would personally serve them with sweet words and with such loving hospitality. They would be totally happy. And then he would ask, is there anything else you would like? Is there anything else you want? How can I serve you? And he would do anything. He's the husband of the goddess of fortune, and he's the menial servant of those who have nothing materially, but who have Krishna. And even common people. If anyone came by his house, he would invite even the common people in and give them such hospitality. And it's explained herein how whatever one may have or not have, there is no impediment to giving hospitality. If you have much, you can give much. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in this, it's explained in this particular chapter, that if someone comes to your home and you don't have anything, you can offer sweet words. You can apologize, I'm sorry I don't have anything. But we could offer the love of our heart. And that love of the heart can be expressed through, if you don't have a chair in your house, you can give a straw mat. If you don't have all kinds of nice foods, you can offer some water. Patram pushpam palamto yam yome bhakta prayachchati. Krishna tells in Gita, if one offers me a fruit, flower, a leaf, or water with devotion, I will accept it. If that's all you have, that's enough. It's the intention Krishna accepts. And that same spirit is the prime duty of a householder toward anyone who may come to their home. And Srila Prabhupada explains, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, that when such a guest comes to your house, you should beg them not to leave. Now that's... and you should feel really sad when they leave. If anyone wants to know why people join the brahmachari ashram, it's much easier in many ways. That type of love from the heart that you have for people who come. Because this is Krishna's house, this is Krishna's property, and this is Krishna's guest. This formula is how you could actually have this consciousness. If you're thinking, my house, my property, my food, my wealth, my body, then I'm giving what's mine. And what happens if there's not enough? But if you understand it's Krishna's, and this is Krishna's guest, hospitality. And actually this is described to be, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the prime duty, dharma of a grihasta. Of course, to put Krishna in the center of house and sadhana and all of that. That is always there. But this is necessary. Because if we're not charitable, we become greedy and hard-hearted and selfish. Giving in charity, giving hospitality to others is the medicine against the inevitable selfishness that accumulates within our heart. Srila Prabhupada tells when he was a little boy, his father would invite every single day no less than 5 sadhus to his house. And before they would eat themselves, the family, they would feed all the sadhus to their heart's content and give them sweet words, and give them so much love. And the only thing Gaur Mohan Dey would ask in return is, please bless my son to be a servant of Sri Radharani. A child being brought up in a house like that, what are their values? It's very important. And we can extend the same principle to our temples. Those who are managing and who are living within a temple of the Lord, we understand it's not our temple. This is Srila Prabhupada's temple. This is Radha Gopinath's temple. And the same principle, anyone who comes here is their guest. They're not just ordinary people. Lord Chaitanya was doing this when people came to his house, even ordinary people. If anyone comes here, they're Krishna's guest, they're Prabhupada's guest. And our foremost duty is hospitality. They should feel loved when they come to our homes. They should feel loved when they come to Prabhupada and Krishna's home. By our gestures, by our words, and by our genuine feelings. And that conquers people's hearts. Non-duplicitous love conquers hearts and makes their hearts open and receptive to philosophy and to spiritual practices. And Srila Prabhupada, he was like that. When he was personally greeting people at 26 2nd Avenue or in Mayapur, how gracious was his hospitality. To make people feel loved. That's the objective. And whatever fulfills that objective, we accept what's favorable, we reject what's unfavorable. Srila Prabhupada said that we are not a movement of taking, we are a movement of giving. And the world must understand that. And whatever we take, it's to give. It's not to keep. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in that way. And Lakshmi Devi, she was such an incredible personification of a lady in the household. It describes her lifestyle. She would rise very early in the morning. She would bathe in Ganga. She would perform her sadhana. She would perform her worship. She had no assistant. She never had an assistant. She would do all the cleaning, she would do all the cooking, she would do all the everything. And she was always cheerful, always grateful. Not as an austerity, but because there was love in her heart. Every morning before Lord Chaitanya would even come into the temple room, she would decorate she would make the temple room absolutely clean, and she would make beautiful, beautiful designs on the floor with colored pastes and colored flowers, all to be erased later the day and made again. She would do it several times a day. She would arrange for all the puja for the deity that Lord Chaitanya would do. She would make the sandalwood pulp. She would collect the tulsi leaves. She would make the incense. In those days, it's not that you just went to buy stocks of incense. You made incense. Huh? She would make the scents. She would grind the spices to make the achman and the madhupark and the argya. She'd have the ghee wicks made. She'd make the ghee by churning the butter. Not that she just got a can of ghee. Everything was so devotional. And then she cooked. With whatever foods she had, she would cook the best possible prasad every day for the deities, all the offerings. And so many times the Vishwambar, her beloved husband, would invite guests, and she would be just cheerfully, blissfully grateful to cook. In this way, from early morning till late night, she was totally immersed in serving, with an absolutely joyful, gracious heart. Because Nimai and Lakshmi Devi, they were a team to serve Krishna, a team to serve the devotees, a team to serve all living beings. And Sachi Mata, she just enjoyed seeing Lakshmi Devi's devotion. It describes that every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, Sachi Devi's happiness was constantly expanding, seeing Lakshmi Devi. She had lost 8 daughters just after birth. Her eldest son renounced the world, never to be seen again. Her husband, Jagannath Mishra, had already passed away. All she had was Vishwambar. But he was out all day teaching and doing his various Lilas in the Ganga. But Lakshmi Devi, Sachi Devi, imagine her happiness. Sachi Mata was getting old. And Vishwambar was her only reason to live. And to know that Vishwambar has a wife like this, so absolutely loving in such an unconditional, selfless way. She was the crest jewel of devotion. And Lakshmi Priya, every day, beyond her all these other duties, she very carefully served Tulsi Devi, knowing that Tulsi Devi is so very dear to Lord Vishnu. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes the Chaitanya Bhagavat to say, but even more careful she was about than worshipping Tulsi, which she was how she served constantly Sachi Mata. I guess I'm supposed to say some purport on that. When I was young, I used to listen to a song called the Mother-in-Law Blues. Because it's kind of a common scenario in the world where it's hard to live with a mother-in-law, either for the husband or the wife, depending on, who's closest to who. So here we find Sachi Devi's the mother-in-law, and Lakshmi Devi, before Sachi Devi even wanted anything or needed anything, Lakshmi Devi understood what it was, because she was so tuned into the heart of pleasing Sachi Devi. Sachi Devi had such a hard life, such a difficult life, so many deaths, so many struggles. But her life was absolutely blissful because she was constantly being inundated with the love and the selfless service of Lakshmi Devi. She absolutely loved Sachi Mata and expressed her love for her at every moment. And Sachi Mata, feeling that, how wonderful this is for Nimai. He's going to be so happy. Even after I leave this world, he has such a companion. And therefore, every moment her bliss was increasing. And Nimai, Lord Chaitanya, upon seeing how Lakshmi Devi was taking care of the deities, the household, all the guests, and especially how she was taking care of his mother, he was extremely satisfied. He didn't even have to say it. His heart was shining with satisfaction. One day, Lord Chaitanya told Sachi Mata that I'm going to East Bengal, Bangladesh. I'll be back in a few days. That's what we always tell our mothers. And he told Lakshmi Devi, you please take care of my mother while I'm gone, make her happy. And then Lord Chaitanya left. And with a few of his students, he traveled to Bangladesh. As he was walking, anybody who saw him was thrilled. While Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip, even though he was very young, he was only a teenager, practically everybody honored him and respected him because of his virtuous, respectful, good qualities, his gracefulness, and because of his incredible capacity of knowledge. It's described when people would do a pious deed in Navadvip, before beginning they would send some gift to Nimai's house, because then everything would be auspicious. That was how he was attracting people. This is before he even established the Sankirtan movement. This is when he was Nimai Pandit. Even when he showed arrogance by challenging people and defeating people, he did it in such a sweet way that he melted people's hearts. The devotees would say, why don't you worship Krishna? Why are you engaged in these academic? And Lord Chaitanya would sometimes, he would challenge them to debates on mundane subjects. But he did it in such a way that the devotees were irresistibly attracted just to be near him, to be with him, to be an object of his affection. So he left Navadvip to go to Bangladesh. And when he saw the Padmavati River, it was very wide, with a very swift current, so beautiful. Imagine 500 years ago, before there were sewage canals and industrial waste being put in the rivers. There were no such things as that in those days. When people wanted to do the sewage stuff, they would just dig a hole in a field. Didn't go to the river. In fact, even when I was a sadhu, there was a certain, living with sadhus, there's certain etiquette toward the rivers. Even if you're going to dig a hole, and it has to be a good distance from the river, not close by. to honor the sanctity and the purity. Now you just go flush. And you just think, oh, I have to say something about this, I guess. And you're just innocently just pushing the button or lowering the lever. So nice, so sweet and clean. Well, where's it going? So many parts of India, it's just thousands of accumulated are all pouring like black poison into the rivers. It's very sad. But at our new Govardhan farm, we have a very nice system. How many of you have seen this system? Raise your hand. Completely natural. One of our devotees got a PhD professor from IIT. He did his thesis on this type of natural technology. Without electricity or just by natural ways, all the sewage, everything that comes through your sink and through your toilet and everything else goes into this big holding tank. It's quite big. And I'm not going to go through all the details. I don't even know them. But it gets filtered through different kinds of rocks and through different kinds of herbs and through different kinds of plants and grasses, and it settles in certain ways, and then it goes to another tank and it goes through this, and by the time it actually comes to the end, it's pure, crystal clear water. Now, for sentimental reasons, we don't drink it. But it's actually very clean, pure water. And it gets put, either it goes to water the plants, or it goes to back into the system of the toilets, where you don't drink that anyway. At least most people. So the reason why this world, for spiritual, emotional, and physical health. Today there's so many diseases due to pollution and stress. So when Lord Chaitanya saw the Padmavati river, it was so pure, so clean, beautiful flowers floating in it, and the water was like nectar. That's the way all the rivers were in those days. And he was so satisfied. For many days he just lived on the banks of the Padmavati river with his devotees. And he would swim in the river, and he would play in the river. And it is described in the scripture how the same sanctity, purity, and blessing of Mother Ganga was now available in the Padmavati river. Ganga is especially sanctified when it washes the feet of Vamanadev and comes to the world. And now the very source of Vamanadev, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Lord himself, is bathing every day. And from that day on, the Padmavati River is every bit as sanctified and gives every bit the blessings of Mother Ganga. Some Brahmins came to Lord Chaitanya at that time. And they said, what a fortune we have. The great Nimai Pandit has come to this little place of Bangladesh. Said, the best of the students of Bangladesh. They travel long distances. They leave their homes just to study under Nimai Pandit in Navadvip. And now Nimai Pandit has come to us. So we are some of the greatest of the scholars and the teachers of Bangladesh. And we want to tell you, Nimai, that whatever we teach is based on what you have spoken and the literatures that you have given us. You are our guru. And now you've come here. We're a poor nation. We don't have so much. Please teach us. What you teach your students in Navadvip, teach us here now that you're here. Lord Vishwambar said, yes, I will. And soon hundreds and hundreds of students were coming to him. And he was teaching them. He stayed there for 2 months. And interestingly, any student that studied under him for that 2 months, he certified as being one of his students. He gave them particular titles. Nimai Pandit was giving them titles according to their learning capacity. And what it would normally take a person 12 or 20 years to learn, every one of his students mastered it in 2 months. That was the type of teaching techniques that Nimai Pandit used. What was the primary technique he had? Kripa. Grace. Sarvasya chaham hridishani vishtoma tasmiti jnana papohanam cha vedaishta sarvairaham eva vidyot vedanta kridveda vedeva chaham. Krishna tells, I am the source of remembrance and knowledge and forgetfulness. That is God. He's within the heart. He's within the heart of every living being. So when the Lord wants to, if the students were eager to learn with a humble disposition, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. The Bhagavad Gita explains this is how we should learn from a guru. We should be submissive. We should be eager to learn. We should inquire with a genuine enthusiasm to learn. And we should be very, very enthusiastic to serve.